So we're going to start off to learn now today's Tanya. You know what's going on, Hestis. The Alter Rebbe is defending Teres Baal Shem Tov. There's the basic question, what it means that Kol HaKeis it's denying Hashgacha Pratis. Then there's the deeper question of the idea of the Hashrav Alakus and Klipa. How could you say Hashem is in Klipa? So the Alter Rebbe explained over the course of 3 shiurim, basically the idea of Golus HaShechina. And in yesterday's shiur, he explained even the Neshamas Yisrael. Right? That Neshamas Yisrael also there's a lot of Madregis, of Shechina, a lot of Madregis in Neshamas Yisrael, and that the Shechina is Mislavish Nadibir of a person. We know that there's always Zel Yumazeh, just like in worlds, right? The language of the shiur of Chavches was this Eretz Yisrael versus Chutz La'aretz in this world, which is Kedusha versus Klipa. The same is true in everything, including in people. There's Zel Yumazeh, Yeshasakis and Dimsabus, there's 10 crowns of Klipa, and I'm sure you've heard from your Mashpiyim why Klipa is called Keser. This is how the Alter Rebbe starts Perik Vov. Because in Klipa there's Makiv, there's no Achtos between the Klipa, the Mokera Klipa and the Chayis which is Mispashet in the Guf. That's why sometimes it says Yud Aleph Kisrin, 11, not 10, because the Chayis is separate. Umehen Nimshaches Nefashes Ha'umis. And from these Klipas comes the Neshamas of Goyim, that are Gamken close, Mesa Bechinas Elumamesh, it's the same 10 Bechinas. So just like there's Yidden, and Yidden are complicated, in other words, there's different aspects of the idea of Shechina as it relates to Neshamas Yisrael specifically, the same is true by Goyim. And now the Alter Rebbe says, just like you have a concept of Golus HaShechina in the world, you have Golus HaShechina in a Yid. It's well known on the land, Mashakos of B'Sefer HaGilgul. It says in Kabbalah, Al Pasuk, based on the Pasuk, Asher Sholat Ha'odam Ba'odam L'Ralein, that one man rules over another man. And the translation is, Adam means Adam the Klipa. Rules Ba'odam over Adam the Kedusha, L'Ralein, and ultimately it's going to be bad for Adam the Klipa. You heard? Sholat Ha'odam of Klipa, Ba'odam of Kedusha L'Ralein. Klipa thinks it's dominating Kedusha and doesn't realize that its dominance of Kedusha is going to be to its own detriment. In other words, Saf Kol Safta is going to be a Yetzias Mitzrayim, going out of Golus, and so forth. But in the meantime, it looks like the Yid is in Golus Tim Goy. Just like the idea of Golus HaShechina, the same is true in Neshamas Yisrael. Shu said Golus HaShechina v'techa Klipis, which is the secret of the Shechina being exiled amongst the Klipis, La'acha Yesam, to give them life, and moreover, La'ashlitam, to give them Shlita, Mitahei, to give them dominance over a Yid, Bizman HaGolus, in the times of Golus. Ultimately, Klipa is going to suffer. Why? It sits in Golus, but all that matanish is avedis haberurim. It's clarifying it, and Saf Kol Saf Yamagal needs Salkus of the Neshama. So the Klipa is actually defeated by the dominance that it has over Kedusha. And therefore, each one of these has to be fixed, as I showed you already. Yes. What page is this? This is Kuf Mem. Kuf Mem Amid Beis. And therefore the nations Sheil Tinat al Yisrael dominate Yidden now. Liyes, because that Nefashes Ha'umes, I guess, the souls of the nations, may a Klipas come from Klipa, Asher Hashchina Mislabeshes Bebchinas Golos B'teichom, that the Shechina manifests in them in a Mamid the Matzav of Golos. And ultimately, this Chayes Elokhi, which is in Klipa, which gives Klipa, that means Goyim and the ability to dominate Jews, ultimately is L'Ra'alei of the Goyim and the Goyishka. So Rebbe Vehine, Af Shezeh Tzorach B'Yerachav. I agree, says the Alter Rebbe. I agree. The Tzorach B'Yerachav, this has to be explained. What does it mean that Klipa has a dominance over Jewish? Eichuma, how this is. I agree that it's a philosophically problematic notion that Kedusha should be dominated by Klipa. But I gotta tell you, I say the mice that Vim is also not mazbe sein. However you're going to explain it, just as in worlds, there's a concept of Golus HaShechina L'Ra'alei. The same is true in people. Goyim dominating Jews is L'Ra'alei. But you must understand still that Ein HaKlipis v'Ha'umis, that Klipa and in this case Goyim are not Yenkim and Makabel Chayes, getting nourishment and receiving life Elamei Ha'ara, only from a small ray. That's first of all, it comes only from the back of Kiddush. What's the pshat, the back of Kedusha? Come on, the shoulder, Basar Kasve, Hashem throws over his shoulder. And of course, you know the idea of the mashal, when someone throws over his shoulder. The dollar is the same, but there's no love. There's no connection to the giver. So the Eibishter gives you a chayes. With a smile, you have not just the chayes, but the Eibishter. The Eibishter gives you a chayes. With his back turned, you have taka chayes, but you're separated from the Eibishter. Va'af comes ace. Number 2, it's adei tzimtzumim and mesechem rabim v'atzumim. There's many contractions and screens. Which allows for this ray of Kedusha to manifest in the baseness of this world, and gives goyim, in goyishkeit, wealth and honor, all physical pleasures. So the Alter Rebbe says there's 2 nekudas. Now you should know in Tanya Perikov Beis, the Alter Rebbe had to say the Hofuch. If you guys remember my Tanya classes, first was Ribut Tzimtzumim, and afterwards is Acherayim. Here he says Faket, first Acharam, then Ribut Tzimtzumim. And the difference is if you have Acharayim before Ribut Tzimtzumim, you create a Mateo. The Seder in Klipa is, from Ribut Tzimtzumim, first there's a little Chayes, and then the Eibishter turns his back. And there's a third point also, and the third point is called Makif. Mashenkin Yisrael, as opposed to Yidden, that Yenkim, they get their nourishment from the face of the Eibishter. It's written, Hashem should shine his countenance upon you, each one, according to the root of his neshama, to the highest levels. So the Alter Rebbe is trying to say that just like it's true of world, it's true of people. And there's such a thing as the dominance of a Goy over a Jew, and the dominance of a Goy over a Jew is like Klipa dominating Kedusha, and ultimately it's L'Ra'alei of the Kedusha. Okay, now the Alter Rebbe is going to, of the Klipa. The Alter Rebbe is going to use this to explain the issue of anger, okay, which is the shir of Beis.